I'm sure that most of you have heard by now about the feud between Andy Ruiz, Dillian Whyte. What was actually offered to Andy Ruiz and what monetary amount, what dollar amount exactly did he turn down? Because Dillian Whyte alleged he was offered $5 million to fight Dillian Whyte in the United States, and Andy Ruiz is alleging that's not true. He wasn't offered that.
Which is actually true.
As it turns out, Andy wasn't offered $5 million, he was offered $4 million. The fact that he was offered $4 million, that the difference between Andy's story and Dillian's story is a difference of $1 million.
Only one?
Well, it communicates the exact same thing to me that I said before, that Andy didn't want this fight. I mean, you're telling me that you didn't accept this fight because of $1 million difference, that's it?
One?
Well, if you wanted an extra million on top of the $4 they already offered you, why didn't you just ask for it? As it turns out, they were more than willing to give it to you.
If you wanted it.
If you really wanted this fight, but it goes back to what I told you before. He didn't want this fight, okay? If the difference between making the fight and not making the fight was only $1 million, why didn't Andy ask for it? If he's so unhappy with the money that he is being offered, $4 million, $5 million, whatever, then why didn't he shoot a counteroffer of his own? I mean, lest we forget, Andy Ruiz is claiming that he's being clout chased, that Dillian Whyte is chasing him for clout. Well, okay, Mr. Clout, since you've got so much clout to go around, why aren't you the one making the offers then? If you're not happy with $4 million or $5 million, those numbers are far too low for Andy Ruiz, then why didn't Andy Ruiz shoot a counteroffer? I'll tell you why. Because he didn't want this fight to begin with. At least, not right now. Not when he's coming off a loss, not when he's in between trainers. Now is not the ideal time to take on such a fight for Andy Ruiz. Thus, when the offer was made to fight Dillian Whyte, he never had any intention of fighting Dillian Whyte to begin with, regardless of what was being offered. Because what was being offered was about $4 million, right?
Right.
Now, if you wanted an extra million on top of that $4, you could have fucking got it. All you had to do was ask. But you didn't ask, did you? No, you didn't, because you didn't want that fight. So, if there are those of you out there that want to call this a duck, an official duck, I mean, you can. Unless Andy Ruiz ends up fighting for a world title in his very next fight, which isn't likely at all. Unless he's fighting someone of a higher tier, a higher caliber than Dillian Whyte.
It's a duck.
If he ends up fighting a lesser opponent for lesser money, ladies and gentlemen, that's a duck.
It's a duck.
And it's gonna stay a duck. If when boxing resumes, Dillian Whyte goes in there, let's say he gets his head knocked clean off his shoulders by one of Alexander Povetkin's left hooks. That's not going to change that Andy Ruiz was offered that same opportunity and he turned it down. Turned it down to fight who and do what exactly? For what amount of money? You're talking about a $4 million payday. That's what you're talking about. And you're talking about a $4 million payday that could have easily been negotiated to a $5 and I dare say $6 million payday if Ruiz actually wanted the fight, if he wanted what was on the table for him. Clearly he didn't. You're talking about a fight that could get you $5, maybe even $6 million. And you tell me, who on the PBC side of things is going to get Andy Ruiz that kind of money?
Oh.
That kind of payday?
Oh.
Dominic Breazeale? Charles Martin? Adam Kovnowski? F.A. Ajagba? Or Frankie Sanchez? Is it Frankie Sanchez?
Ortiz.
Is old Al Heyman going to pay you $5-6 million for Frankie Sanchez? Is that what he's going to do?
Come on.
And by all means, indulge me, please.
Come on.
Which one of those aforementioned fighters is ranked higher than Dillian Whyte? Which one of those guys that I just named is ranked higher than Dillian Whyte? Which one of those guys is the WBC's interim champion? Essentially, the guy that can get you the title shot. Which one of those guys is in a pole position like Dillian Whyte is in a pole position? To where not only do you get to make a nice chunk of change, but you get yourself in position for a world title opportunity. Which one of those guys? You tell me. You're walking away from more money for less money to face a lesser opponent. Those are all the characteristics of a duck. You don't want to risk whatever it is you think you're risking against Dillian Whyte. Bottom line, even if right now, that's the biggest payday on the table for you. Because, I mean, you're not going to get Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's all tied up with Wilder. You're not going to get an Anthony Joshua rubber match because he's got mandatories to satisfy for the next couple of months. And that's after boxing resumes. Who knows when that will be? I mean, essentially, this was the biggest payday for you, you know? And you walked away from that. You want to play it safe. You don't want to risk nothing with Dillian Whyte. That's what it looks like to me. You're walking away from more money for less money to fight lesser guys. Pretty self-explanatory. And I know, that the usual suspects are going to try to split hairs to make this seem like something that it's not, that, oh, Dillian Whyte is lying. He didn't offer him 5. No, he didn't offer him 5. You're right. He didn't offer him 5. He offered it 4. But as it turns out, all Andy had to do was ask for that extra $1 million to make it 5, and ladies and gentlemen, we would have had a fight. So if Andy Ruiz actually wanted this opportunity, that's all he would have had to do. And if Andy Ruiz has all this fucking clout that we keep hearing about, that he's got to be clout chased, okay, why is he not the guy making offers? If you're the guy with all the fucking clout, right, you're the guy who's being chased for all the clout that you possess, why aren't you the one making the offers? The same applies, because you didn't want this fight.
Yeah.
This is what a boxing discussion is reduced to in this postmodern era of boxing, to where you got a lot of guys that'll try to spin most anything into a convoluted mess to disguise what is a clear and apparent duck. A convoluted mess when the matter itself is actually quite simple. If Andy Ruiz wanted this fight, he would have had this fight, all right? If the difference between making a fight and not making a fight is only $1 million, you could have asked for that and you would have fucking got it. Or if you're in such a powerful position to where those are peanuts, okay, why aren't you the one making the offers since you've got all the clout? The same applies. Because you didn't want this fight. Pretty fucking simple. You know, it just so happens that that's what I've been saying all along. Moving on, Leo Santa Cruz says, if Tank doesn't want to fight, my second option is Gary Russel.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before.
He's quoted as saying, we don't know a fight date yet. We're just waiting for all of this to be over. Leo Santa Cruz explained while hosting a live chat on Premier Boxing Champions Facebook page from his Southern California home. Hopefully this summer, I can come back and fight Tank Davis. My second option, if Tank doesn't want to fight, my second option would be Gary Russel Jr., Santa Cruz insists. Such a fight was teased for years. While the two saw their featherweight title reigns overlap, Russel Jr. still reigns as a 126-pound titleist, recently celebrating his 5-year anniversary. The supremely gifted 31-year-old southpaw from the greater Washington, D.C. area has gone as far as to call out Al Heyman, the high-powered advisor for both fighters, as well as Davis, at one point to make the fight happen. We've been saying that I want that fight, Santa Cruz insists. Hopefully, we get that Tank fight, but if not, we want Gary Russel. Do you know how fucking long Leo Santa Cruz has been saying that same shit about Gary Russel?
A while.
I mean, seriously, he's been saying this for years.
It really has.
I'll tell you that it means even less now than it used to in the past. You see, Gary Russel, he very recently said he's planning on moving up to 135 pounds. 135 pounds where Gervonta Davis is currently campaigning. And the way that breaks down is, we know that Leo Santa Cruz wants that Davis fight to take place at 130 pounds, right?
Right.
Where he's the WBA champion. Now, if Davis doesn't want to have to go back to 130 pounds for fear of how it might affect his performance, he could always opt to fight Gary Russel at 135, since Gary Russel very recently said he's going up there. So where Leo Santa Cruz might think that Gary's dance card is free so that he can be his proverbial plan B, he might end up being someone else's plan B, someone like Gervonta Davis.
135.
That Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russel fight, it ain't what it used to be. Before, it was a unification match between featherweight champions.
Yeah.
Long-standing featherweight champions. Whereas now, you know, Leo holds a title at 130, and Gary, he still holds that title at 126, but he could very well vacate it in the near future to go up there to 135, like he's saying he's going to go up there to 135. So the fight itself, it doesn't even have as much on the line as it did before. And they've been dangling fans with this fight, this potential fight, for years. And
Fuck that.
You know, I'm sick of hearing about it.
Fuck that.
You know how long Leo Santa Cruz was a WBA champion at featherweight? This guy was WBA champion as of January 2017. And Gary Russel, he was a champion at the weight even longer than that. That guy's been WBC champion at featherweight since March of 2015.
Still is.
At any point after January of 2017, Leo Santa Cruz could have found the time to fight that fucking guy, but he never did. He went as far as leaving the featherweight division, having never fought Gary Russel. He goes up to super featherweight, There's 3 world champions there that he's completely oblivious to. 3 world champions he's ignoring now that he is campaigning among them. You got Jojo Diaz holding the IBF.
All right.
You got Jamel Herring holding the WBO, and you got Miguel Berchelt holding the WBC. And who's this fucking guy looking at? He's looking at Gary fucking Russel as a plan B, no less.
Give me a break.
It's a goddamn fucking joke. I mean, what am I supposed to be right now? What am I supposed to be right now? What? Am I supposed to be excited by this? Is this supposed to get my juices going or something like that? Get my juices going? Get my juices flowing? Is that what this is supposed to do? Because that's what this is not doing. And you know why it's not doing this? Because I've been waiting for this fucking fight for fucking years.
Fuck off.
Except now, if they were to fight, well, it really wouldn't be 2 world titles on the line now, would it? It wouldn't even be a unification match, now would it?
No.
You want to know what it would be, though? You want to know what it would be? It'd be past the sell-by date. It would be a day late and $1 short, as the fight itself is not now what it could have been then, a unification match. So pardon the fuck out of me if I'm not falling out of my chair with excitement that Leo Santa Cruz is once again saying the same fucking shit that he didn't act on years ago.
Fuck out of
And
here.
finally, Oscar Valdez had this to say. He says, only Berchelt is on my mind. I want that belt. He was quoted as saying, we only have one fighter in mind right now, which is El Alacran Berchelt, because I'm the mandatory fighter. It's a mandatory fight, and there were rumors it was going to be May 9th. I was already back in training camp in San Diego for May 9th, but then we got the news, May 9th, was Jose Ramirez and Victor Postol. We just continued training. It was going to hurt us to remain in camp. Valdez said the top ranks Cristina Pancha. The fight hasn't been announced yet, but it's a mandatory fight. The fight has to happen. I think on our side, we're ready to sign a contract because I'm going for my dream. I want that belt. We want to make it official. I was already in training for that fight. Right now, we just got to train back home. It is what it is. I think Berchelt is the toughest fighter in that division. That's why we're going for him. We want to go for everything. As far as Oscar Valdez making yet another move upstairs to 135 or something like that, he was quoted as saying, I don't think I'm moving up anytime soon. I've been a featherweight for pretty much all my career, ever since I turned pro in 2012. I think it was time to go up to 130. I don't see myself going up anytime soon. I want to accomplish my dream to become a world champion again. That's why I'm going after this challenge now. I'll tell you something about Oscar Valdez. This kid's got guts.
Yeah.
He's got guts, he does. He could have moved up and acclimated to the weight, fought a couple of Joe Blows, some Tommy tomato cans, some patty potato salads. He could have kept busy with those kinds of fighters before so deciding to take on the likes of a Miguel Berchelt. He could have did that. Would have been perfectly okay. I don't think anyone would have criticized him for it. He certainly could have used that time to round out even further as a fighter now that he's training under Eddie Reynoso, who could perhaps have had more time to add some of those trademark qualities we see in Canelo in Oscar. But as it stands, everything seems to be on course for Oscar to take on Miguel Berchelt. And I gotta tell you, for all this kid's guts, those guts,
Well,
I don't think they're gonna help him finish that fight on his feet. I don't. I think he's gonna go in there. I think he's gonna get mauled. I think he's gonna get overpowered. I think he's going to get butchered. Because when Oscar Valdez says that Miguel Berchelt is the toughest guy at 130 pounds, I just so happen to agree with him. I believe him. Miguel Berchelt is a guy who flies pretty low on the radar, even in closely knit boxing circles. Not everyone has had the privilege to fully take stock of this fighter, who's been the longest reigning world champion in the super featherweight division for some time now. He's been a WBC's super featherweight champion since January 2017, when he took on the then undefeated Francisco Vargas. Francisco Vargas, who was the WBC super featherweight champion at the time. Miguel, he won that fight. He won that fight by way of knockout in the 11th round. Good way to become a champion, good way to make a statement. Since that time, Miguel Berchelt has racked up 6 consecutive title defenses, 6 consecutive successful title defenses, and these ain't Joe Blows he's been fighting, you know. He actually had a rematch with Vargas, and he won that rematch with Vargas. He fought Takeshi Miura. He fought Mickey Roman. These guys, these ain't slouches, man. And Miguel Berchelt, he's defended that crown, he's kept that crown. And I don't think for a second that Oscar Valdez, a newbie to this weight, quite undersized for it if you ask me, I don't think he's going to be the one to take that green belt away from Miguel. I just don't think Oscar has the minerals, the ingredients to pull this off, to pull this miracle off, because that's what he would need. He'd need a fucking miracle. Tell you what I think. I think that this fight is going to look a lot like Miguel Berchelt's last fight against Jason Sosa, Puerto Rico's own Jason Sosa. You know, there were people... They were actually picking Jason to win that fight. Why is beyond me. But I saw those people, you know, and I wasn't of that opinion. I didn't think Jason had the ingredients to win that fight the same way I don't think Oscar's got the ingredients to win that fight. And given the differential in size, you know, the fact that Jason's not exactly defensively astute in all the ways that Oscar's not exactly defensively astute, that you can't work in the pocket and ensure that something won't get through, that you won't get clipped. I think that, given the differential in size and the fact that Oscar Valdez, he ain't exactly Pernell Whitaker out there, you know? I mean, this guy, he's not defensible in the pocket. We saw that in the Adam Lopez fight, and we saw it before that in the Scott Quigg fight. You know, Oscar Valdez, he's a warrior, but in that way, he gets into wars. You go trying to get into a war with Miguel Berchelt, you're going to the fucking hospital. That's where you're going. Oscar Valdez, being the naturally smaller fighter in a fight, he's got no choice but to fight deep in the pocket because he ain't got the length to box from the outside. Not that he's that kind of boxer. He's really not. He's got no choice but to try to bang in the booth, try to hang on, and I don't see that going very well for him at all. So while I commend his cojones, his can-do attitude, the same applies. I don't think this is going to end well for Oscar. I don't think this is going to end well at all.